It's Sunday, March 27th, the year 2022. I'm your host, John Molden, owner at Blood, Sweat, and Tears Concrete. I'm here with my co-hosts, Carly and Magnus Molden, and this is...
No Crying Concrete.
Very good, guys. So, Carly.
Yes.
What will we be covering this week?
Reasons your concrete contractor may need to postpone the pour.
Very good. And what are some of those reasons?
Rain, heat, wind, batch plant problems, staff shortages, or rescheduling problems.
Right on. This can and does happen with lots of concrete projects. You're all excited. You've been looking forward to your new slab for a long time. And your contractor says it has to wait. You know, it shocks you at first and you want to keep the project going, but they may be right. So let's look at a few scenarios where postponing the pour may just be the right thing to do. Carly.
Yes.
Do you remember a few weeks ago when the guys got caught out in the rain?
Yes, I do.
How do you remember that then?
I was there.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's right.
To do our Facebook Live of the pour, and they had to put the plastic on the concrete, and it was cold and windy, and it was just much different than like a regular pour, like in the summertime.
You know, they had a heck of a time that day. The forecast didn't look bad, but it sure did turn out bad, and they fought it tooth and nail and won in the end. But when rain is in the forecast, your contractor is going to be a little more on edge. That morning I was pacing the floors, looking at the forecast, looking at the radar. You know, I had to make a big call. Can we risk it? Should we not? And with how busy it is right now, the concrete has to be ordered weeks in advance. And if you need a pump, it may even take longer than that to get the pump once you postpone it. So it isn't something we do for no good reason at all. Now, if the forecast is 100% and your contractor orders the mud, 100% chance of rain, and your contractor orders the concrete, you probably hired the wrong contractor. Wouldn't you say? Yeah. But that's easy though, 100%. What about if it's 20 to 30% chance?
Your contractor will probably just be on edge a little bit.
Yeah. Well, at 20 or 30%, it can go either way. So, your contractor might bring some plastic sheeting along. Maybe just roll the dice and go for it like we did that day. I really thought we were going to be all right, but we had the stuff along to make sure we could make it happen if it did start to rain. And when it does and you've got the plastic with you, got to cover it. Wait for it to stop and get in there and do some finishing on it. And, just kind of play the rain showers to get it done throughout the day. But if it would have been the same thing, but it would have been a roof line right there where the rain's running right off the roof, that hard edge of the roof, especially if there's no gutters, can really wreak havoc on your concrete, even through the plastic. So if that's the case, it's a lot of times better just to postpone the pour altogether. Magnus, do you remember how windy it was the day we poured our driveway or not?
No.
You don't? You were pretty little. Do you remember, Carly?
Kind of.
It was an ugly day, and it was super windy. The temperature wasn't bad, but it was really windy, and we were doing a decorative driveway there, so we had to cover part of it with plastic. We had to use antique release with the stamping, so it was a pretty miserable day for the guys. And I think if we had been doing that at a customer's home, I'm guessing I would have probably postponed it that day. But since we were doing it here, we had a little shelter from the garage, and then we set up some 4-foot step forms as a wind barrier, and we went for it. It turned out fine, but it was a little bit tricky, put it that way. So I guess the thing is that wind does happen, and unfortunately, wind is a mortal enemy of concrete. Your contractor most likely has a surface retarder with and finishing aids on hand for windy days. And they might also be able to set up barriers like we did that day. But they may also just call you up and let you know that they're going to postpone the pour because of the wind. And don't hate them for it, because it looks like you picked a good contractor. So just say thank you and bear with them.
Yeah. When we poured our driveway, Brother told Orville he was doing it wrong.
Yeah, that was that day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He was pretty little, but for some reason he thought that Orville was doing it wrong, so he came up behind him and let him know. Carly, when it gets super hot in Tucson, what do you do to beat the heat?
I either stay inside with the air conditioner on or come outside, but if I come outside, I'm getting wet.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll ask Tammy if I can go swimming at her house.
Yep. So here in Tucson, if we had to wait for weather to cool down, we would never get anything done because it's hot a good part of the year. We have misters on the concrete trucks to keep the drum cool. We put ice in the load to trick the concrete into being more cooperative. And we use a whole menagerie of chemicals and additives to gain whatever sort of an edge we can. But so heat alone isn't going to stop us from pouring, but when mixed with some of the following problems, it does factor in heavily. The one big one is traffic delays. Magnus, did you hear Orville talking about the accident that made the concrete truck late last week? You remember what he said about it?
Yeah, they were stuck there for a while.
Yeah, the truck was coming down the frontage road and there was an accident in front of him, so he had to sit there and wait until they could clear it. And it ended up being more than an hour late for the job site, so Orville was calling and making sure that it was still alright to pour that concrete. And it would have been close to the deadline on it, which is 90 minutes. The rule is kind of if it leaves once it leaves the plant, it's got 90 minutes to be poured. And if you can't do it in that time, you should reject the load. But with this one in particular, I'd put 1 hour of Yukon DS in it, a 1 hour retarder basically, so that extends that amount of time. So, but even with additives in it like that, in the dead of the summer, I mean this is pretty nice time of year right now, but in the dead of the summer, pushing it that hour late, even with the additive in it, you may be better off just sending that truck back to the plant and trying it again another day, because you're pushing that pour into the heat of the day at that point, and that's going to make it all the much more difficult to get it to look nice. So Carly,
Yes.
do you remember last week when the tire on the red trailer was flat?
I do. Yes.
Paul had just taken it to the tire shop the day before and got the tire fixed, and on the way back here it picked up another nail or screw or whatever, and it was flat that morning, so Orville ended up having to transfer all of his tools and stuff to another trailer and getting to the job site. And he was a little bit late that morning, but that's just the way that things go when it comes to anything mechanical. Sometimes things break, and that's even at the batch plant, which is what brings us to our next thing, the batch plant problems. Some mornings the guys will be putting plastic up to shield the splatter and taping off and getting everything ready to go, and the phone will ring and it'll be the batch plant, and they're going to say there was a problem at the plant and the mud will be an hour late, or however much late. And that doesn't sound super terrible to the untrained eye, but every second is precious to a contractor who's particular about the way the slab turns out, especially in the Arizona heat. So Carly,
Yes.
have you ever gone to bed feeling fine and then woke up sick in the morning?
Yes. there's been times where I'll go to bed feeling just fine, and then I'll wake up with either a sore throat or a headache or whatever, or
Yep.
even a stomach ache. So
Exactly. Yep.
typically when I get sick, that's how I get sick. Is I'll go to sleep, and then when I wake up, I don't feel good.
How about you, buddy?
Yeah.
What's happening to you too?
Sometimes you get sick at like school or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the middle of
Yeah, people get sick. We found that out especially in the last couple of years, haven't we? People get sick. People are scared of being sick, all that stuff. So that leads us to staffing shortages. And there's a lot of that going on nowadays in general. But what we're talking about right now is like the lead finisher. He's often the glue that holds the finishing operation together. He or she is the conductor of an operation that is all about timing. And you know, with most jobs, the crew can handle pouring something just fine by themselves. They don't need that main finisher there. But if that project takes that special skill set where there's multiple slopes and a lot of different things going on, the contractor might be better off just postponing that pour until his main finisher can be there. So Magnus, have you ever waited till the last minute to do something?
Yeah,
What was that then?
schoolwork.
It was. What about you, Carly? You've never done that, have you?
Yeah, I've done that. I think we all have.
I think so. I know I have. I remember
Like-
doing.
A couple days ago, I don't remember if it was 2 or 3 days ago, but whatever it was, we had to go to football conditioning for my brother, and we didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't have my shoes on or my hair done, and I didn't have our water bottles made,
Mhm.
and so we were a little bit late.
Yeah. We kind of push everything off to the last minute and think we can get it done. So that brings us to scheduling problems, and in busy times like right now, we need to schedule the concrete 2 to 3 weeks out. And if a customer calls and has to reschedule at the last minute, or weather throws a wrench in the works, it can be tricky to get concrete in short notice. You know, sometimes I'll get a call on a Friday and a customer will say, hey, we can't start next week. Such and such came up. So now I'm scrambling to find a job that's on the right side of town with a pour schedule similar to that job so that I can keep the days I have scheduled to pour and slide them into that spot, and that doesn't always work out that way. So, something like that can really throw the whole schedule into turmoil. And it may mean that whoever we put in that slot, we come in, get your job ready to pour, and then have to wait to pour it, for a while until we can get that schedule resolved. It's a not a great scenario to have your forms all set up for that long, but it is way better than trying to get concrete delivered later in the morning on a hot day when you're going to be risking a catastrophic failure or something like that. So Carly,
Yes.
what do I do whenever a new review is posted online?
You read them to us and share them with everyone on the crew.
I do, don't I? We are super proud of the work we do, and we do everything in our power to make sure that your job turns out right. And it's like utmost importance still is that everything works out right. So when the reviews come in, it's just like a relief, and it's a wonderful thing that I want to share with everybody on the crew. And I know there's a lot of good contractors out there that are the same way. So try not to judge before hearing your contractor out. In a lot of cases, it's better to be safe than sorry when it comes to postponing concrete. And nobody wants to have their project delayed. It's frustrating for everybody involved. But believe in your contractor. the good ones will always make decisions in your best interest. So, just pick a good one and believe in them.
Yep.
They won't do you wrong. Carly, you got any questions for me this week? It's kind of fun when you guys ask me questions.
So, what can you do if the concrete plant is more than like 90 minutes away?
So if the concrete plant is more than 90 minutes away, we have to add the retarder to the mix just to get it there in time. And with a 4,000 psi mix, we always add at least 1 hour of retarder, whether it's winter or summer. That 1 hour is a given because that 4,000 sets up in the truck a little bit faster than the 3,000. So if we're that far away, we've got to extend that time with the Yukon DS by putting additional, giving it that retarder. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you got today, bud?
I think I really have anything.
I bet you got something. Huh?
Well, maybe something not about the concrete.
Maybe.
Okay,
Something weird.
so this is actually the first day Jack's been pretty much let out. I mean, we let him out in the beginning, but...
Oh, your chicken?
Yeah.
He's been nervous about the chicken all day because the roosters have been separated. And we didn't want them to kill each other, but they've been doing good together, so...
Well, yeah. They just
Pretty
got
odd.
their own areas.
Yep. Yeah, we haven't even been surrounded by chickens tonight.
You ever had to do like a pour with like a big like tent like thing over it, like during monsoon seasons?
So we have put like a tent over the top of a small slab one time that we could work underneath. We just kind of built it out of plastic and stakes and boards and stuff, and we had just enough room to work under it. And then we've also worked just underneath the plastic with the plastic on our heads. And I remember it was Travis and Mike and I underneath there doing a colored patio. And it was like one of them days when it was sunshine and rain almost the same time. And Mike was like, "Oh man, it's like a Greek sauna under here,
That's what I was just about to say.
What's that? The Greek sauna thing?
You had to do that job like under.
Yeah, we got some pictures of Mike underneath there. I snapped a couple pictures of him with the plastic on his head. We were all underneath the plastic that day, the three of us. It was pretty fun.
Greek sauna.
Not fun. Pretty not fun.
A Greek sauna.
Yeah, whatever. I think that's what he said. But
Well, do you think that we'll be able to maybe like in a week or two we'll be able to get the guys on here to introduce them?
maybe you can start working on that, huh?
Yeah.
Every time you see Orville or the guys out here in the evenings or mornings, you can start to harass them about it. We can do an interview with at least one of them at a time.
Well,
You think?
yeah.
Alright, that's a plan. Well, thank you for taking the time to watch. We will be back next Sunday from the Backyard Bar answering more questions you didn't know you needed to ask about concrete. Remember, there is no crying in concrete other than tears of joy brought about a job well done. Say goodbye, guys.
Bye.